The first team is the Troy Trojans. Troy was in the tournament last year. They were a 14 seed. They played Kentucky. This was like my first time on numbers, and you guys were like, who's going to upset? Of course, there was not a single upset last year in the boring, chalky bracket, but I liked what Troy was doing in that game against Kentucky. They were involved. So they bring back some pieces from that team. Their highest usage player is this guy I made a video about named Victor Valdez. This is his third year playing for Troy. He's from Mexico. And when he committed to Troy, the coach called him the Mexican Luka Doncic, which was my hope for the video I made.
Yes.
And last year he came off the bench for Troy, and he played a little bit in that Kentucky game. I think he played like 18 minutes off the bench or something, but he's become like their point guard now, right? And he is he had like a 14 assist game. He is number one in their league against the free throw line. The 3-point shot has evaded him a bit. He's sub 30% of the year, but he is really good. And they've got this big guy, Thomas Dowd, also his third year in the program. This coach, Scott Cross, has done a nice job of keeping his players. This dude is a sleeper NBA guy. Our guy, James Barlow, Raphael's brother, he has him as like a deep cut guy. He's a fantastic rebounder, and he's taken 172 threes this year, only 34%. But it's a team that they're going to need to hit shots, of course, to beat anyone. But I like the way that they rebound. I like the continuity. They were here last year. And look what they did in non-conference. They won at San Diego State. They almost won at USC. They lost in triple overtime. And they've got a couple other nice road wins like at Furman and at Akron, two teams that I might be talking about here in a second. But shout out to Troy Trojans. They're a team that I want to see. And they're in that funky Sunbelt bracket where the team who is the 6th seed has to win like 3 extra games than they do. They're the 1 seed, so they only have to win 2 games to get in.
The one thing I want to ask, and I didn't mention this about Belmont, I don't like that Belmont shoots below 70% from the free throw line, because we know March Madness, it comes down sometimes to that. And it's always crazy when good 3-point shooting teams struggle at the line. What is the thing that you look at Troy and says, I love this, I love that, and I love this, but this, it worries me just a little bit?
The one thing that worries me is their starting 5-man has missed the last 4 games. He's supposed to come back for the Sunbelt tournament, Theo Sang, but without him, it's going to be really tough to beat a high major team.
Okay.
But their profile-wise, I like everything about them.
Who we got next?
Next up are the Akron Zips.
They back.
And they have only lost twice since Christmas. A 3-point road loss at Miami, Ohio, and a road loss to Troy, which was this one-off random non-conference game played a few weeks ago. But Miami, Ohio is this amazing story, of course. They haven't lost a game. I am of the belief that if Miami, Ohio loses in their conference tournament after an undefeated regular season, they're going to make the dance, because it would just – the outcry of that, it would just seem so unfair no matter their conference schedule. So I'm hoping for Akron to beat Miami, Ohio, because, to be honest, I think they're better, and I want to see 2 teams from this league get in the tournament.
Yes.
So Akron's got this senior guard. A big theme for me with some of these mid-majors is who's been able to retain players. It's really hard to retain a good mid-major player when these big programs can offer them money. But Tavari Johnson, this is his 4th year at Akron. He's made the tournament the last 2 years, and he's just a stud point guard. Like he can just create for himself whatever. He's a walk-in 20 points. And I like this the way this team defends as well, but offensively they're just fantastic. 11th nationally in 3-point percentage, 14th in 2-point percentage. They have these 2 brothers, the Mahaffey brothers, who came from Ohio State. So some down transfers. This big 6'9", 240-pound center, Amani Lyles, who's also been at Akron for 4 years. So they've got high major athletes. They've got really good guard play, and they can shoot it really well. And like I said, their only 2 losses since Christmas are a 3-point road loss against an undefeated team and a loss to a mid-major that I think is like one of the most dangerous teams. So I'm hoping Akron wins the MAC tournament.
What would be the best case scenario for them in the opening round tournament-wise?
So probably a team that doesn't have dominant bigs. They played Purdue and lost 97-79. So that's obviously tough to go win at Mackey Arena. But for a lot of these teams, it's interesting because Purdue, of course, has been upset by St. Peter's, by Fairleigh Dickinson, by North Tech. So if you can be a defense that forces a lot of turnovers, Akron is pretty good. They're top 100 in defensive turnover rate, number 1 in their league. If you have this havoc defense, then maybe it's fine because you're doubling the post, you're fronting the post and whatever. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I have a real answer, but it's scary with some of these teams how good their front courts are and just how dominant they can be inside the arc. Team number 3 is the Furman Paladins. So Furman is like 4th or 5th in the SoCon. So they're a team that it's going to be more difficult for them to make it. But I think this might be the most talented team in the league.
What's my boy that they had a few years ago? Lawson?
Jalen Slauson. He just signed like a 10-day the other day.
Yeah, he got drafted by the Kings. Man, when he was on that Furman team, I picked them to I think I picked them for the first upset and maybe the second one. That was one of my money getters back when we was doing we might have been through the wire at that time, but that one was a big hit.
Yeah, 3 years ago, Jalen Slauson had 19 and Furman beat Virginia. So head coach Bob Ritchie looking to get back to the tournament. Guy who's been there and won a game there. He's been the head coach 10 seasons at Furman 9. And this is the first time he's ever started a freshman. And that freshman is this kid by the name of Alex Wilkins. He's a late blooming 6'5" point guard who was 5'10" his sophomore year. He's from around an hour from where I'm from. He's from Massachusetts. Went under the radar, but he hit this growth spurt, started to get more attention, but he's like, I'm going to stick with Furman. Like, I like with Furman. So Richie, he knows he's got this kid. He's letting him start, and he is very high usage. They let him go. He struggles turning the ball over a bit. He's shooting sub 30% from 3, but he is a very good shot maker who has range and can shoot off the dribble, create for himself, in a elite level passer, very smooth. And this team is huge. You don't see mid-majors that look like this. Their starting lineup is a 6'5" point guard, 6'7", 6'7", 6'11", 6'11". And off the bench, they 6'4", 6'6", 6'7". They've got a Florida State down transfer, a Clemson down transfer, some athletic bigs who can dunk. They're 11th in the country in 2-point percentage. So they're outside the top 200 if you look at the whole season, but they've dealt with some injuries. They've got a point guard that has some really high upside down the road. So I've got eyes on Furman.
What is their projected seed? Like 11?
They'd be like a 14 probably.
A 14.
Maybe a 13.
14. What's the percentages of them actually? I don't want to say actually. Because it's tough to answer this without knowing their opponent. But what percentage of a probability would you give them to win that opening round?
So they're in the same league as like Samford, Mercer, Wofford, teams that UNC Greensboro, those are teams that historically have been a 13-14 and have played some very competitive games. Obviously, Samford against Kansas 2 years ago, that game was
sure.
Absolutely. Mercer obviously beat Duke a bit ago. UNC Greensboro took Gonzaga down to the wire. When Rui Hachimura was there, UNC Greensboro also took Florida State down to the wire. So this is a league that's been competitive in these matchups. So